and we're going to have Abhishek Hariharan join us live from University of Maryland, College Park. But before I invite our guests for this evening, I just want to understand your expectations from this seminar, because naturally, since it's a panel discussion, I want to understand what is it that you guys expect from this seminar. What are the questions that you want to get answered through this event? So quickly, let's have a round of introduction before we call upon our guests this evening. Right? So my name is Donna David, and I'm a student welfare officer and a GRE and admissions expert here at GREH. And let's get to know each other better. I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask you so that we get to know each other better. The first question that I want to ask you is, what are you guys currently pursuing? So I've launched this poll right now on the screen, guys. You can quickly take a second and let me know what is it that you're currently pursuing. Are you in your second year, third year, final year, completed graduation, or are you a working professional? You can quickly take a second to answer this poll, guys. All right, sounds like a lot of you guys, seems like a lot of you guys have voted. Let's quickly move on to the next question. The second question is to understand, when are you planning to give your GRE? What is the timeline that you've set for yourself? Now, depending upon which admission season that you want to go for, you'll have to plan your application timeline accordingly. So it's important that you space out your GRE preparation, your applications process, your documentation, all of that, so that you're done before the deadline. So with that, we'll move on to the last question as part of this round of introduction, and that is to understand, which admission season are you guys targeting? All right, a big majority of you seem to be targeting the fall 2019, which I think would be majority of the audience at this point in time, since fall 19 deadlines are just around the corner. All right, so I hope this seminar will kind of definitely add a lot of value in that process of applying for fall 2019. In fact, all of the three guests that will be joining us this evening, we're all in the same position as you were a year ago. So I'm sure they'll have a lot of things to add from their own experience, and you can definitely pick up a thing or two from the seminar. So I hope you guys have an interesting interactive session, and I can see that a lot of you guys have joined us here. A very warm welcome to Kritika, Manoj, Adil, Sapna, Saiful, Puneet, Kaushik, Kritika, Shushmita. Okay, a lot of people joining us here. This is great. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'll just make a quick announcement that your mics have been muted by default by the GoToWebinar portal. But please make sure you ask me all kinds of questions by making use of the chat box available on the right-hand side of your screen. So guys, if you guys can hear me loud and clear, please type in GRE in capital letters and let me know right now. Okay, so I guess the audio is perfect and we're good to go. So in that case, let's quickly begin this online seminar, shall we? Are you guys excited to invite our guests for this evening? Yes, says Kaushik. Yes, says Kritika. Yes, says Manoj. Yes, says Monisha. Yes, says Rajdeep, Vamshi, Rajalakshmi, Spurti. Wow, Raja, you've been attending I think you've been part of this event from the beginning, which is fantastic. It's really nice to see the energy that the audience has in spite of having a 13-hour long event. So anyway, great to see you all pumped up. Let's invite our guests for this evening. Okay, I guess Abhishek Hariharan has joined us live. Very warm welcome to Abhishek. Welcome, Chirag.
Hello.
Yes, right. I am on the way. Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, I guess I can hear you all. Guys, are you able to see our guests? All right, great. All right, very warm welcome. Guys, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the audience. Chirag, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, so Good evening to everyone there. My name is Chirag. I'm currently pursuing my third semester in building construction. My master's in building construction here at Georgia Tech. I'm going to be graduating this December, and I'm here to answer all of your questions regarding GRE, any doubts you have in grad school, or any doubts you have what to do after getting your graduate degree.
Okay, just a minute. I'm not able to hear all of you. Just give me a minute, guys. Okay, in the meantime, the audience, can you guys hear our panel here? Abhishek, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Abhishek.
The audio is okay. Guys in the audience, can you let me know if the audio is perfect? All right, so I guess it's just me then. Give me a second, guys, while I fix this.
Yeah, I hope you all can hear us. Just a minute, guys. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, guys, are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I can hear you as well.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Just give me 1 minute. Okay.
Okay, guys, are you now able to hear me?
Can you all see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still not able to hear the panel.
You unmuted your computer? Anyway, I am.
All right, guys.
Okay, it's just what? It's no.
Okay, very sorry about this audio disturbance, guys, but I guess now you can hear me. Abhishek, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. And Chirag, can you hear me?
Yep, but I think there's an echo from the background.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, seems like I'm using a bad pair of headset. All right. Okay. Just one last audio check before we carry this forward. Are you guys able to hear me now? Is it better?
Yes.
This sounds perfect.
Okay. Is the echo also kind of? All right. Perfect. Then in that case, we're good to go. All right, guys. So sorry to keep you all held up there because of this difficulty, but I guess now we're all good to go. Right. So let's quickly have a round of introduction. I believe everybody has gotten to know your profiles, right? So I guess Chirag is done with his introduction. Abhishek, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, my name is Abhishek. I'm in my third semester of telecommunications at the University of Maryland.
All right. And Arushi, what about you?
So I would like to greet everybody the Texas A&M way. Howdy. This is Arushi from Texas A&M. I'm pursuing my third semester in electrical engineering with a specialization in optical engineering.
All right. So here are three people from three reputed universities, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions for these guys. But before we get to the questions, I want to ask you guys one thing. How is it like? How is your life currently in the US? Abhishek, how is life at Maryland College Park? Can you give us a glimpse of what it's like to pursue masters at Maryland College Park?
I mean, contrary to popular belief, it's actually not as hectic as people think it is. As long as you have your deadlines down and you get your assignments done, it's pretty smooth sailing. You have a lot of free time on your hands. Usually, you tend to use the free time to try and develop skills and other stuff that you probably need to apply to jobs. But you do have a lot of free time. It's pretty good. The people around are really nice. It's extremely cold right now. I mean, apart from that, everything's pretty good here.
All right. So what about you, Chirag? Can you give us a little bit of intro into what is it like to study, pursue your master's at Georgia Tech?
So yeah, for me, I'd like to agree with Abhishek. At least the first initial few months were a little not so hectic. I was getting used to everything. But then I would have to say after that, it's been a very busy life. Currently, I do intern and go to school at the same time. So it's a challenge to manage their time and make sure your assignments are on time and to make sure that you're getting your duties done and you're learning in your internship. So it is quite a busy life for me now. And considering I'm graduating in a month's time from now, so it is kind of hectic going through this last month right now.
Absolutely. I know grad life is not a cakewalk, as I hear from all MS students at this point of time. So it's like, this discussion would actually prepare the audience as to what it's like to pursue masters. So anyway, let's hear it from you, Arushi. How is it like in Texas?
First of all, you guys need to know that it's not just a good university. It's in fact, the people there are very warm. The community there is very strong. So even if you feel that you are being in a very low state, low mental state, and you want to be pulled up, everybody is going to be there to support you. No Aggie leaves their other Aggie behind. I think that's a statement that we follow a lot. And we call ourselves Aggies, by the way. And for me, grad life is definitely not a cakewalk, especially when you're a fresher, because I have no work experience. So to be able to stay away 9,000 miles away from home and yet be able to manage a part-time job. Yeah, so I'm working on a part-time job. I have been working for the past 1.5 months now. Part-time job, academics, and I've started working on my thesis. And I've made a timeline to graduate by August. So having said that, it's been smooth in a way, but at the same time, it's not been too smooth. So I hope that new aspirants would be like, they will at least learn from it and be better. I mean, learn to live their life better, anyway.
Anyway, I'm sure they will, because it's all about coping with new circumstances. We're always going to meet new challenges, and you guys are living testimonies to the fact that, it's always going to be different, but I'm sure this is going to be a really inspiring session. And let's find out a lot more about, the admissions process and the applications journey of all of these 3 students. Right, guys? So I have a lot of questions coming in. So the first question that I have is, my question is to Chirag ma'am. That is a question from Sai Teja. Now, Sai Teja asks, what is the scope for construction engineering?
So the scope for construction engineering right now, I would say, is really good. At least.
Oh, sorry, not construction. Sorry, my bad. Civil engineering.
Civil engineering. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, civil construction and all the related fields. If you're getting into construction management or transportation engineering, all of those fields, I'd say, are currently really good in the US, especially all along the East Coast and in Texas, because the construction industry right now is like really booming. They're building everywhere. So it's a really good time to come in, graduate, and hunt for a job. But again, saying that, you would have to be a little smart about which area you're picking. By area, I mean like which part of the US you're going into for your graduate studies. Like, for example, like being closer to a city gives you more opportunities to like go out into the field and meet the construction companies. And that's a better way for you to get a job than just networking through LinkedIn, for example. So when you're applying to universities, that's something you need to factor in, because if your final goal is not to do a PhD and your goal is to like 2 years, I graduate, I want to get a job, always factor in the location and how you're going to proceed after you graduate from that university.
Absolutely. I mean, it should definitely be a factor that you consider when you shortlist universities, and you definitely want to make sure that it's got a future and you have something to take that forward. Whatever you pursue your master's in, you want to take that forward into your future as well. So absolutely valid point, Chirag. Okay, so next I have a question for Arushi here.
Hi.
Right. So Kaushik Verma asks, how is the robotics program at TAMU? Is there a specialization for robotics?
Okay. Hi, Kaushik. Hope you're doing well. And yes, there is a robotics specialization. However, I need to give a very brief summary of the department that is here in Texas A&M. The department in for electrical engineering is under electrical and computer engineering. So robotics would come under the computer engineering side of it. Job opportunities are great there. In fact, I know somebody who is, and it's also there in the computer science side as well. I know somebody who's a computer science major. He finished his internship in KUKA, which is a good robotics company. And now I think he's doing his co-op in NVIDIA or something like that. So,
okay.
Yeah, so there is a very good job opportunity, but you have to be, you have to have a certain amount of experience. I mean, when you're learning about for robotics and stuff like that. So.
All right. Okay. So here I have a question for Abhishek. So I find Priyanka is aspiring to go to Maryland College Park for the telecommunication program. So since it's one of the best programs, best schools that offer telecommunication program, can you tell us a little bit about your program?
So how the program works is you have classes, like a specific set, a specific amount of credits that you take each semester, except for the final semester. So you have your core courses, plus you can take a few electives up until the final sem where you have a choice. You're usually just left with one core course or two core courses. So you can choose to take an elective or not. That's up to you. It's not required as per the credit requirements. And you need to write a scholarly paper at some point. It could be in the second, third, or fourth semester. That's up to you. So the scholarly paper is kind of the most important thing, I'd say, apart from the coursework, because that's something you'll need to put a lot of time and effort into. I haven't started mine yet, but you have a whole, seminar, and there's like a lot of workshops revolving around that. And you need to make sure you go to those. So there's all of that. Apart from that, telecommunications, is usually divided into wireless and networks. And I've taken the networks route. I'm going more towards networks and cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. So once you come here, you have a wide array of electives to pick from. And depending on your interests, you can choose the ones that will probably help you a lot more. You have choices between something like 5G, or you could pick networks and protocols too, where you learn about specific router protocols and all of that. So, the course is brilliant. The opportunities are plenty. You just have to make sure to apply a lot, because the area that I'm in is the DMV area. So most of the jobs that you get here are federal contracts. So the first thing they say is you need to have either clearance, you need to be a US citizen. We don't sponsor. So you need to be aware of that. Like when you do come here for telecommunication, you have a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, they're kind of limited to you because they're all federal contracts. So just keep that in mind. But if you go for whatever you decide, you'll still have a lot of opportunities. So you'll find something. The course as such is brilliant. We have great professors. So you don't have to worry about that.
Wonderful. Anyway, that was about the telecommunications program. In fact, Maryland College Park has, a lot of history, and they've been consistently ranked, in the top for, VLSI and for telecommunications and wireless networks. So definitely, if you are someone who is, looking to pursue a master's in that field, definitely you can always post your questions here and get them answered by Abhishek. Right. So coming to, I can hear a lot of questions coming in for their own respective fields. Like, I have a question from Daivat. Daivat asks, what is the major entry areas for MS in computer science? So I guess, how about you take this one, Arushi?
Could you repeat the question for me, Donna?
Right. Daivat asks, what is the major entry areas for MS in computer science?
If by entry areas, if you mean specializations, then there is more of machine learning, there's more of operating systems, cybersecurity, as I said, robotics. Here, when they talk about computer science, they mean computer engineering in general, because there are two different tracks. The computer engineering, because the one track involves a lot of hardware, which involves computer architecture, computer VLSI design, and the network side also a little bit, but the more of the network side, machine learning, cloud computing, robotics, they all come under computer science.
All right. So I'm going to dive into a lot of crucial things that a lot of our students want to know more about, because at this point, people do face the heat of the applications pressure, right? I'm sure. Do you guys remember how it was like in that last 1 month before deadlines? What was it like?
It was a hectic time, because you're trying to see if you're making all the deadlines. You're trying to see if you're keeping the right track of all the dates, because you don't want to mess up dates for the universities and send in things at the wrong time. And you want to make sure you got everything right on your application, because it's one shot at it. You can't keep going back and changing things. So yeah, it was pretty hectic time.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. In fact, there might be a lot of students in the audience. In fact, I get a lot of questions from students asking, will my low GPA come in the way of my applications process? What do I do about my backlogs? And, everybody starts to worry about these things that they feel like are challenges or hurdles in their applications process. So we definitely want to address all of these questions as we move forward in this discussion. And in fact, as you've all seen the profiles of all of these three panelists, I mean, they've all had their fair share of hurdles or challenges. So let's find out what were the challenges. So let's begin with Abhishek. Abhishek, can you tell us what were some of the admissions challenges that you came across during your applications process?
So, I mean, like Chirag said, the main thing was to make sure that you've gotten everything right on your profile. Like, you make sure you send all your scores, you make sure you have the right contact details for your LORs, make sure that your SOP is all spell checked. And yeah, I guess that was the only thing, because I did something a little different than what people usually do. So I dedicated a set of like 3-4 days and completed all my applications within those days. So it was never really a hectic process for me, because the only thing I had to keep track of was to see if I'm submitting the right documents. And since my work was done in like 3-4 days, I was pretty set. I went ahead and made SOPs for the specific colleges earlier and, had them all organized by folders. So I knew which to upload where. And yeah, just making sure I did that was the only thing. But yeah, I did focus a lot on my SOP. That was the fulcrum of my application, I could say.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Arushi? What was your biggest challenge? Or if you had multiple, what were they?
Definitely when it comes to, you have to keep track of the deadlines, and you have to have that spirit of balance while you're like managing, as you're like finishing your academic life or your work life, and you're working towards the applying. So I didn't have 3-4 days per se, because I was still in my final year and I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was right. I'm pretty sure some students or some people must have also been in the state when they were applying. They must have been like, am I sure? Am I doing the right thing? Or because, you suddenly feel that, you're applying to so many places. Sometimes finances can definitely play a huge role, be a definite challenge. And yeah, about the SOP though, I knew I wanted to come to USA from a very long time. So I had written my SOP from like second year of undergrad, I must say. So I had it prepared from before. I just needed to fine tune it according to what the university wanted, how the university wanted it to be presented. So that is not much of a challenge as much as keeping sure the contact details in the LOR is the same, because LOR is the same, the finances are intact. Even if you have a low GRE score, your overall profile should be fine. Because what I love about, I'm pretty sure Chirag and Abhishek would also agree with me. What I love about our universities, especially when they were taking in admissions, is that they look at us holistically. They don't look at us, okay, that you don't have the score, then you don't qualify. No, they look at it holistically, and that makes a lot difference. So having an overall substantially good profile is important. To maintain that, for me at least, was important. And finances.
In fact, just to add to that, I have a question. Hirul asks, Arushi, is it a matter of concern if we have a low GRE like 301 for TAMU?
Repeat that question for me.
Okay, Hiran asks, is it a matter of concern if we have a low GRE score like 301 for TAMU?
It is not really. It was definitely a matter of concern for me while I was applying, because all of a sudden you suddenly feel that your confidence is like lower down in many ways. But I had applied to 12 universities, and believe it or not, my first admit was from TAMU. So I was jumping in my college when I got that admit, because nobody would even believe that. But I think if I look back at my profile as to what made the difference, I think it was how I otherwise maintained the other side of my profile. Even if I had a low GRE score, I had a pretty good TOEFL score of 105. I had a 8.8 GPA, and I had my other life where I was. I had taken part in workshops. I had given a paper presentation in 5G, and I was proofreading research journals. My mini projects and projects were making a difference. My internship in BSNL was making a difference. So even if you have a low score, it's okay. That shouldn't, pull you down, because it didn't put me down.
And we all know how that ended up, right? So definitely don't quit. I mean, like she pointed out rightly, there are other aspects of your profile that you should focus on. That kind of reminds me that Chirag here also had no work experience, right, Chirag? Yep. And you made it to one of the top ranked institutions for building construction management, right? So. What was it like for you? What was the challenge that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
For me, I would agree to everything that Abhishek and Arushi said. For me, it was like once I gave my GRE and once I knew what my score was, I'd be frank, I'd be honest, I did freak out for like that night. I gave the GRE. I'm like, okay, I got a 310. What do I do now? But then I had to tell myself like, okay, that is your score. You can't go change your score now. Let's see what you can do going ahead. And for me, at least, I had a different system, I'm guessing, than both of these, or I don't know if they did it. So I took like the next week and I made a spreadsheet for myself. So I kind of went through all the programs that I was interested in, reevaluated which universities that I can go and apply to now. And I had all the things listed in that spreadsheet. When the deadline was, what the application fees is, who my LORs would be from, what the word limit was for the SOP. So I had all of this in the spreadsheet, and I had color coded everything. Whether I've sent my GRE scores to this university, whether I've sent my TOEFL scores to this university. Because the problem is when you're applying to 6 or 7 universities at a time and you're sending 6 or 7 different scores, it's tough to keep track what reached whom. So whenever you get an email or a notification that something reached, update the spreadsheet and you're good to go, because then you don't have to remember it anymore. Like, it's on the spreadsheet. So that's the way I managed the process. That's the way I kept track of what I was doing. And it did kind of help out. But yeah, I did spend time working on my SOPs, because that's a really crucial part, because you need to highlight your interest for that program, why you really think you should be the one who they should select over someone else. So that's your point, to emphasize your interest to going to this university. So yeah, so
Right.
that would be my side of the story.
Like Chirag said, no matter how non-organized you are in general, for this process, Excel is going to be your best friend.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That really helps a lot.
Right.
It helps a lot knowing what you need to do and what you've already done. Because
Yep.
I've had points where I'm like, did I send my score? Did I not send my score? I'm not sure. And then I had to log into multiple different things, and then again, like, try to think, okay, what
Yeah.
is the password again? And
Yeah.
all of that. So then I started my spreadsheet, and after that, there was no looking back. It was just open Excel, change the color, and okay, then I know I'm done, and then just close it and forget about it.
And funnily enough, I made a spreadsheet after I received the admits, because I mean,
That's
no,
when you
I-
realized what you were getting into, huh?
yeah, no, because then I was like, okay, now I'm color code, and I was the color coding the principle that I was applying it after I got admits, because I had applied to 12 and I had received 8 admits. So I was like checking out if there were any scholarships I received, if the what will be the opportunities that I get to work in after I be in this university. And I was checking that, and then I realized that because Excel is definitely going to be your best friend, not just while you're applying, but after you receive the admits too. Once you get like multiple
Right.
admits and
To
stuff
keep
like
track
that.
of the progress. Right.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So I guess everybody finds admissions process to be cumbersome, and I guess we now have a solution to that. Coming up next is another topic of discussion that a lot of students have been meaning to ask. So not everybody who applies to top universities have the best of profiles, right? Some people may not have a great GPA, may not have a GPA above 8. Some people might have backlogs in their profile. So here I have a question from Logadarshini. Okay, so I'm just going to take the first of such questions, because I'm sure everybody wants to have clarity. People want to be motivated because they want to be sure should they take the leap forward or not. So I guess from your experience, it would be great if you would answer these questions and tell them what is it like from your own experience, right? So Logadarshini asks, low CGPA and backlogs, will that affect my MS dream? So yeah, who wants to take that question?
I can take that because that's right up my alley. So
Right,
I
tell
had a
me.
GPA of 6.1 or 6.2, and I had backlogs when I was supposed to be completing my course. And so I knew that would be like a black mark, or at least I was really scared that it would be. So the step that I took towards, trying to mask that or trying to cover that, and all of that was basically to get an internship. So I interned at an IoT startup, and therefore I had a lot more to write in my profile and seem extremely interesting. So, they look at me more as a person with some experience, a person who's been a little bit in the field, and, someone who's pretty clear about what they want to do. So when, they have an idea of you that way, they don't really care that much about your GPA and, your backlogs. As long as you get them cleared, they're like, okay, maybe this guy stumbled a little bit along the way, but, see, he's done so much more. He's gone above and beyond. what's actually required. So, because my course doesn't have like a necessary work experience or anything, that's it's not listed on the website. So, I mean, it's up to me if I want to just apply right after I graduate, or if I want to take a year off work. So yeah, I took a year off. I worked, and yeah, I obviously learned a lot. Apart from just that, it also helped mask all the inadequacies in my profile. So yeah, backlogs, they don't generally matter. Just don't give them too much attention. Like, you don't need to mention it everywhere, but because you're going to be sending your transcripts, right? So the university is going to know whether you have backlogs, or what your overall score is. And I mean, definitely don't lie, because you're going to be out if you try doing anything of the sort. So that's not a good idea. But don't give it more attention than required. Just let them look at it. Just put that information out there. Somewhere in your transcripts it'll be there. And if they're going to look at it closely, they'll see it, they'll catch it, and they'll be like, okay. You don't have to go and make it a point to tell them I didn't do well, I got a backlog. It's just not necessary. And also don't worry too much. Like, just make sure you have something to back it up with.
All right. Anybody else who wants to add some points?
Yep, I can add something to it, because I had about 72% in my engineering when I graduated, and I kind of knew that I needed to add to my profile, because I had a job offer, but it wasn't a job I was interested to work in, so I didn't take up the job. So I decided I'd rather add to my profile, because I'm going to be applying for my graduate school. So what I'd say to people who have like less CGPAs or who have backlogs is, find someone who can mentor you, like find someone in the field that you're interested in, go talk to them, kind of share your profile with them and ask them how you can build upon it. There are multiple certification courses that you can do to build your profile. You don't have to necessarily intern with a company. If a company doesn't want to let you to intern with them, that's fine. Ask someone if you can just shadow them on their job. They don't need to pay you. It doesn't need to be official. If you can job shadow them, you can gain knowledge from it. That's good. Because something that is primarily different, at least in the US, when they view your profile, is that they don't make your academic scores the only criteria that they judge you on. They when they see your profile, they want to see where and how you got your knowledge from. If you got your knowledge from working, for me, at least in construction, if I got my knowledge from being on the construction side for like 5 whole years and I didn't do anything else, that's a good knowledge for them, because I've spent learning it on the side, like I've learned it by doing it. But if I don't have the scores to back it up, that's fine for them, because they're like, you spent a lot of time learning, you have the knowledge to pursue this program. So that's something people can do who have lower CGPA. Focus on gaining knowledge in the field that you're interested in. Internships, job shadowing, or certification courses. It can be online, or it can be, I don't know, some exams that you could take up. So spend some time, take about a couple of weeks, spend some time, research about this, make a list of things, and then go for it.
Absolutely. I guess that's definitely motivating, because backlogs, low GPA, low GRE, they seem to be like these demons that could pull you down in your applications process. And if you really put too much thought into it, if you really let it affect you a lot, then you would actually not end up seeing the positive side. I guess that's what you guys did differently, right?
Yep.
You tried to bring the upside or look at the upside to your profile and not really bother too much about the downside. So I guess that's the learning that we should take away from the experiences of these students. Right. So following on that note, I have a question from Mukundan. He asks, should we talk about backlogs in our SOPs? What is your suggestion, Abhishek?
Generally, no. I would say you don't have to, unless, like, for example, let's say you had backlogs because of a medical condition or something, and you really feel very strongly about it. Otherwise, I don't think it's a good idea. It's not necessary. Like, I mean, whether or not it's a good idea, the thing we need to know is it's not necessary. You have no obligation to have to mention it on your SOP, because, like I said earlier, they're going to look at it in your transcripts. So unless you really want to bring it out that, this is what happened, this was my situation, and you had like a learning experience from it, or there's something to take away from it that you think will strengthen their view of you, I would say don't mention it.
All right. So here's an interesting question. We have a question from an early bird. Okay. So Yash is in his second year right now, and he asks, he currently has a low GPA, but he wants to know what should be his approach from here on if he wants to get top MS admits from US. So what's your take on that, Arushi?
Well, I anyway started working towards my MS life from third year itself. So I still tried maintaining a constant GPA, but at the same, but since it's low, you need to first make sure that your GPA is, that if you can increase your GPA, please do it. If you're not able to, please make sure that, as Chirag said, add on to your profile, certification courses, or, mentoring somebody, like being mentored by someone, internships, even paper publications, whatever can you feel you can do and can help you, please do it. For me, my internship and my mini projects made a little bit of little augmented my profile, and so I feel and I tried to make sure that because mine was 8.8 GPA, so I tried to maintain that same level, if not take it a little higher. So even if you have a low GPA in the second year, you have a lot of time, 2 years, make the most of it. And say in your third, I have a feeling when you're like in your third year or in your fourth year, especially during your college life, when you feel like you want to get into grad school, you need to first see which sets of subjects you feel you're drawn towards to. Like, for example, when I was thinking of applying in telecommunication, so how SATCOM, GPS, wireless communication, they are all one set. When I was thinking of applying for electromagnetics, antenna design, mobile microwave ICs, they were taking me towards. So you need to see which sets of subjects are you interested in, and if you wanted to keep pursuing in it. Do that. You can once you have selected that, go ahead, apply more. Take more certification courses, internships, workshops, paper presentations. However you can, go ahead and augment your profile that way.
All right. So basically, Yash, you have a lot of time ahead of you. First, you can simultaneously work on both your merits as well as your demerits, right? So I guess that was definitely a wonderful piece of advice, Arushi. So let's pick up a couple of more questions. Seems like the audience has tons of questions for you guys. I mean, I don't think we need to go by the PPT anymore. We can just pick up a lot of questions here. So let's take up a question from, Gaurav. Gaurav asks, does applying early help me or increase my chances of getting an admit?
It does. So now there are two deadlines, major deadlines. One is the international deadline, they say, because then you are considered also for scholarships. And then there is a general deadline that people generally follow. If you apply early, you need to keep a track of both the dates. Some may have 2 different dates, some may have 1 date, but you need to make sure that you keep a track of both the dates, so that way you're considered for a scholarship. I had applied there. I had some dates I had applied to some universities before the international, the usual deadline, and I was considered for scholarships and grants in 3-4 areas, 3-4 universities.
All right. So I guess that definitely does add an edge to your profile, going by what Arushi says. What about you guys? What do you feel about that, Chirag?
So yeah, like applying early definitely matters because think about it this way: a grad program usually only, obviously in computer science and electrical they do take a lot of more students, but in construction they only usually take like 15 or 20 students per class. And if there are 300 people who applied and they like the first 20, they might pick the first 20. You never know.
Yeah.
So you want to be as early as you can because you want to make sure you give yourself more chances. Like they say, create a good first impression. That creates a good first impression on the professors that you made sure you took your effort to apply early. So that shows that you're interested in the program. You took time out to plan everything and make sure everything reached them before the deadline. So it's a good thing to do that. It creates a good first impression on you. So I'd say as much as possible, do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Emailing the professors do help. Like in your specialization, if you want to pursue, like when I was pursuing for nanotechnology, I had emailed 4 professors. There's a far chance that one of them will definitely respond to you and they will definitely help you.
And just to tag on to that, just as like a suggestion to people, when you're emailing professors, please also be respectful in the way you email them because these are really busy people who are doing their research and they're teaching students. So don't just bombard them with emails. If they don't reply to you, wait for it. Make sure you wait at least a week or 2 weeks before you follow up. Don't just email them every 2 hours asking for something. That's definitely not going to help you. That's actually it might work against you going ahead in the long run.
Yeah. But do follow up. So that
always follow up, but make sure you give them sufficient amount of time for them to like look at it and get back to you.
A lot of people are usually unsure whether these professors reply, but they're extremely responsive. Like just give them a few days and they'll get back to you. I emailed the director of my program a little before I applied, asking him a few questions, and I got a prompt reply in like a day or something with like a very detailed explanation and specific links to the resources I should look at to further clear any questions. Because obviously I can't ask him all the small things and expect him to have the time to clear it all up. But it was great of him to actually send me the links and say, refer to this for these questions that you had. It's going to help you out. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea to email them or get in touch with them, and they will help you out. But just don't bombard them like he said.
Yeah. So to add on to that, if students just have doubts regarding like the course or how the course is structured or things like that, consider either approaching someone who's studying at that university to ask that question, or go on to the school's website and find out who the academic advisor is and email them. Don't email the professor asking how the courses are structured because...
Man, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing.
Make sure you either ask someone who's studying at that university regarding that or find out who the academic advisors are and email them regarding those questions.
Oh, and sometimes the academic advisors are like, have you read the graduate handbook?
Yep.
Because, because in that they've given all the details, almost all the details. And they updated every time.
95% of the information you need is always on the website.
Yes.
Anyway, so I guess that does matter a lot because it shows, that you've done sufficient homework, like Chirag mentioned. So I guess that definitely should be an important point to keep in mind. So I have a question here from Mayank Tiwari. He asks, does applying for Fall 19 in November count as early?
So it depends. Like if the university's deadline is tomorrow, then apply for it now if it's still early. But like for my course, the deadline is in the 31st of March. So there's about 6 months you could apply to from now. But I'd say the earlier you apply, the better you are. Because I applied at the end of November and I had my admit in the start of Jan. And I was carrying on with my financial processes after that because I was sure where I was going to go. So the earlier you apply, you kind of also put yourself ahead in when you'll hear back from the university because they always process the applications in the order they receive them.
Yes.
So apply early, you get to hear back early, and then you give yourself more time to plan out everything because
Yes.
At least I feel most of the people would be taking educational loans, and that's a cumbersome process to get all the papers ready and get all the financial documents ready, and then you have your visa. So give yourself enough amount of time later to do all of that. So applying early, it's like a chain event. You push one thing, you push everything. So applying early definitely helps.
Like I have seen, like, so for my program, the deadline was 15 Jan. I remember the date pretty well. I applied it a couple of days before the deadline. Or maybe not 15 Jan, 31st Jan. I'm not wrong. 31st Jan. And I got my admit in February. So the moment I got my admit in February, I started working towards the financial documents for the I-20, then for the visa. What happens sometimes is when people apply late, they get the admit late. When they get the admit late, as Chirag said, it's a chain event. And I have seen people in Tamil like not being able to not being able to clear the visa interview, or not being able to reach the university on time just because one part of the, like, say, applying on time, they couldn't apply on time, so everything just slid down from there.
All right. So here I have a question from Narendra. Narendra asks, I would like to know what to do at this point, how to approach universities when you have a GPA of 6.1 with 2 years of relevant experience to the course I'm applying to. Say I managed to get a GRE score of 310. Right. Who would like to take that question?
That sounds like me minus, plus 1 year of experience. Because I had 6.1, a 310 or a 312. I don't remember my score, but somewhere in that ballpark, like almost the same. And I worked for a year. So SOP. The answer to most of the questions is SOP and LOR, because when you don't have other things going for you, these are anyway extremely big factors. So when you don't have other things going for you, they become even bigger. So just try to make it look as brilliant as possible. Like, put a lot of time and effort into your SOP. That has to be perfect. Like, it has to have everything that you need, or everything that you want to actually convey. Because an SOP is like a summary of your life history for the people you're applying to. So when they know, like, what you've done and what you want to do further, the clearer the picture is in their head after reading your SOP, the higher the probability that they're going to say, okay, this guy knows what he wants. Let's, give him a shot. So SOP and LORs. If you work for 2 years, you can get a really good LOR. You'd probably know a lot of people. And your skill set would be extremely good. Make sure to include your resume when you're applying, because working for 2 years is a big thing. I mean, it's no joke. You would have picked up a lot of things that you can only pick up through actually working in your field. So that on your resume when you're applying is going to be a huge bonus. Focus on your SOP again. Like, I'm going to keep repeating that. And you'll hear that a lot from all of us, I'm assuming. So, yeah.
So we have an exclusive discussion on SOP from all three of you, because I know how much SOP means to each and every one of you. And I know you guys have your own tips to share when it comes to SOP. In fact, we have arranged for a giveaway for all of the attendees of our event today, which includes a 15-step guide to writing an SOP, some important deadlines for fall 19, and of course, an exclusive offer running on our admissions counseling program for just today's event attendees, right? So you can find all of these giveaways available in the download option, or if you're online through desktop, you'll find that under handouts. Okay, if you have any trouble finding them, please let me know. I will guide you through the same towards the end of the seminar. And just to get the excitement going on a little bit, if you have been attending our event from the beginning, you'd know we're doing this in every single seminar. We've had 7 of them. This is the culmination. This is the 8th and the final event. In each of them, we've had a pop quiz where we ask a couple of questions, and the fastest correct answer wins a 1 year-long Zomato Gold subscription. Now, I don't know, folks in the US, do you have Zomato Gold over there, or
I don't think I've used Zomato till now.
Yeah, I don't think I've used it either.
or do you guys miss that? Because India still, is on top of their game. We have a lot of pretty cool stuff around here too. It's not that we're missing out on a lot of things, but anyway. So stay tuned for the pop quiz, guys. We definitely want to see who would grab the last two prizes that's left, last two subscriptions to Zomato Gold, and we'd love to have you stick around until the pop quiz, right? So stay tuned. Do pay attention to a lot of details. I might just pick up a question based on anything that the three of them would say tonight. All right, so stay tuned. And coming back to questions, let's take up, so I guess that was Narendra's question that we answered for 6.1 GPA and 2 years of WorkX, what must be done next? And of course, we thought of SOP, but we will come to that in detail because SOP deserves a discussion of its own. So let's get back to that in a while. Meanwhile, I'd like to open up another topic at this point in time because clearly everybody is apprehensive about how the university perceives their profile. Right. So let's talk about what is it that the admissions committee looks for in a profile. That gives everybody an idea, okay, so if this is what they are looking for, then this is how I need to take my applications forward. So if everybody gets that idea, then I guess they kind of understand what must be done next. So I guess let's start with Chirag. Chirag, what do you think? What is it that the admissions committee looks for in a profile?
So the main thing they look for is you'd have to consider that you're applying for a graduate program. So it's a specialized program that you're applying for. So when you're tuning your profile, you need to make sure you're giving the admissions committee things you have done relevant to the specialization that you're applying in. Don't start your profile off with a bunch of things which does not apply to the program, because you're going to distract the professor who's going to be evaluating your profile, and they might just start glazing through the rest of the stuff instead of actually reading in depth. So be it your SOP or be it your LOR or your resume, always make sure you start it off with, you make sure you highlight the things which are really relevant to the program that you're applying to. So that's something I'd like to say is very important for a university, at least at a master's level.
Yeah, don't make them look for the relevant things because they don't have the time for it. Like, to be very frank, they do not have the time to go through every single detail and be like, oh, okay, so this guy's done this. If you have some, really good certification and that's stuck somewhere in the middle or somewhere in some corner of your resume or SOP, it's like, you can pretty much forget that it exists because it's a very low probability that they're going to actually be able to see it and process it with all the other stuff that's there. Cut down on junk, be very specific, put all the things you need to be there. And it's not like an exam paper where, if you're writing a huge 10-mark question, you don't just fill up the page as much as possible. Just stick to the point, be very relevant. Yeah.
I would definitely say the same thing because be it wherever, even as I said, when you're looking for in a profile, you need to first know what you want. Then only when you're able to apply, when you're in the process of applying, you can at least tell them that, okay, see, this is what I want and this is what I have done to be in the path of to get what I want.
Right.
So, yeah.
So just to add on, and even to answer the previous question which Narendra had asked, SOP and LORs are two really important things. But another thing people shouldn't forget to pay attention to is their resume. So make sure your resume is very, very well tuned. It should not have any grammatical errors, no formatting errors, because it is your resume and they're going to evaluate it professionally. So it should be a very professional looking piece of paper. And even if you have 2, 3, or 4 years of experience, try to keep it to a page and not to go over it. I would say if you have a creative spark in you, add graphics onto it. If you can take out words and put visuals instead, do it, because you're applying to a school, they like to see new things. They like to see like, okay, he has the potential to like, he or she has the potential to like innovate stuff or like present things in different way. That's something which appeals to them. So also take time to work on your resume along with your SOP and LOR. That's something very important.
The resume definitely makes a lot of difference, because you need to make sure that you are being to the point as well. And what I have seen, especially when I don't think we have campus placements, we have more of career fairs in USA. So when we have career fairs, we are handing out resumes to like different companies that come for the career fairs. So they will have a specific job profile also. So that is for future references. But even now it applies to when you're applying to the university for your particular coursework. You need to mention, like when you need to be specific. If you're going for say nanotechnology or VLSI design, what are the courses that I have taken in order to want to specialize in VLSI design? So you need, and as Chirag said, if you could keep it in one page, the better it'll be good, so that they won't have to flip through pages, and people will be like, oh, she's got so much there. Then, like, let's say if your important part is in the other half, then they might overlook it. So it should be to the point, and mention as much as you can. Be creative. You never know how it can make a difference.
Yeah, over here, anything more than a page in your resume is kind of frowned upon, because like she said, people just think that, the essential details that you need for what you're applying to or for the job that you're applying to should be there in that one page. Like, you don't need more than that to apply. Because I mean, if you list out every skill that you have or every coding language, you can probably take it up like 3-4 pages, but is that relevant to what you're applying to? That's the question that comes up. And if it's a yes, then you keep it. If it's not, then no matter how huge of a deal it is, it doesn't need to be on your resume. If it's not pertinent, just remove it. Try to keep it up to a page, because that's the first thing they told us here. We went to get our resumes critiqued, and they're like, what's this? You have like 2 pages. It's wrong. I'm like, yeah, but how do I fit it in? They're like, this is not needed. You don't need this. Edit this. Summarize this better. It has to be a page. They give you a format. They say stick to it. Keep it simple. Make sure that when they look at it, they see what they want to see.
Yeah. And sometimes having a mentor I'm so sorry. Sometimes having a mentor by your side while you're going through the admission process helps. Because if you're not sure as to how to summarize it, at least they'll be able to guide you in that sense. So, sorry, Donna.
No problem. I was in fact just going to add on to that, when you have, a lot of things to add to your resume and really sure what to cut down and how to make it look, crisp and, I have a question here from Daivat. He's been asking, I had 7 industrial visits and 3 internships and 5+ projects. How do I, show it short and crisp in my SOP and resume while the admissions committee check them? So what should be like a guiding rule? I mean, if there was a pecking order in which you could start eliminating, what should be that order? What are the things that you can eliminate if you have a lot of things?
So to start off with, I would say, are all the 5 of those industrial visits exactly relevant to the specialization you're applying in? If it's not, cut down anything that's not related to it. Internships, when you're listing out internships, make sure you put more amount of points on the one which is relevant. You might have spent only a month on this internship and 3 months on the other one. But if the one you work 3 months on doesn't have things relevant to the specialization you're applying for, reduce the number of points in it, and make sure you talk more about the internship where you worked actually on the specialization you're applying towards. So you'd have to kind of play smart and try to filter it out. And like Arushi said, having a mentor always helps. You can always use your professors in your undergrad to like critique your resume, yeah, you can always find, there are forums online where you can find people who are studying here, who are doing their masters here. You can post your resume, they can help critique it for you. So there are always resources, and I would say I'd always tell people to like make sure you have 3-4 revisions of your resume before you finally come to a final version of it.
All right. Okay, so here's a question from Rahul Rathod. He asks, I'm good at extracurricular activities, national volunteering, and president of many clubs and leadership achievements, but average on academics. Can it help me to get top MS admits?
That's kind of sounds like my profile. I mean, because I was always, in fact, I was a president of a club in my undergrad as well for 2 years. And I was working towards, I was organizing conferences. I was attending paper presentations. I was attending workshops. I feel when you're especially mentioning them in your SOP, don't just mention what you have done. Mention what you could learn from them. So, for example, when I was a president of the club, I learned that it is not easy to manage a leader of 30 people, a group of 30 people. So, how you could learn to, how did you learn patience through it? How did you learn team coordination through it? Especially when you're, even when you're managing your projects, how did you manage to what were the challenges you faced? How do you overcome it? Not just, the workshops you attended, what helped you, or what did you learn from it? Like say I had attended a robotics workshop. I had attended a satellite design workshop. I had attended a photonics workshop. So I learned some things which were related to my field when I was applying. So I definitely feel that you shouldn't, that even though you have an average GPA, you can, because I sometimes feel my GPA is average, but you could you could definitely mention in your SOP as to how your extracurricular activities helped you as a person, and how you can benefit from it when you're applying to in your master's program. So when you're saying, okay, I am going for this master's program, I have done this, and I assure you that the leadership skills and whatever I have acquired will help me in my future goals and stuff like that. That's what I feel. If Chirag and Abhishek can add on to it, that will also be good.
I definitely agree, because I also, like Arushi, was involved with a lot of extracurriculars in my undergrad. I was also a president of some of the organizations that were there in my undergrad. And currently, I'm also the president of a student construction association here at Georgia Tech. So those are always good things to hold, because you have to remember that the professors want to know if you have a sense of leadership, and also how you can manage your time. Because coming into grad school, they want to know you're capable of multitasking, because you might have to be a TA or a GRA, you might have to do your academics, you might have to apply for jobs, and you still need to have a social life. So they want to know you can do all of these things at once. And if you have an option where you can show them, here, I did all of this at once and I'm still successful now, that's a good thing to show on your SOP. But I would say, don't make sure you're also concise about it at the same time, because you don't want your whole SOP looking like all you did was extracurricular activities, because you also need to focus on things related to your academics and coursework. So I'd say you can keep a paragraph, or depending on the word limit, always make sure it's concise, to the point, and highlight your leadership and time management skills while doing those extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I'm learning that, especially as I'm now a vice president for the Indian graduate, one of the vice presidents for the Indian Graduate Student Associations here at Texas A&M. So I also, it being in, as Chirag said, extracurricular activities help, but you need to be concise about it in your SOP, because it shouldn't take away the attention from, the advisors whoever's reviewing, they shouldn't be like, all you did was you extracurriculars. They want to know that, okay, you can manage everything, but still know what you want.
Absolutely. They always look for diversity in their student community, and they want to see holistic all-rounders coming in, and they want to see what is it that you can offer to the student community. Right? So I guess you guys have pretty much covered that aspect. Extracurriculars are important because it shows how well-rounded you are as a candidate, but definitely you need to show substance in terms of your coursework as well. So it's all about maintaining the right balance, right? So I hope that answers your question, Rahul.
Donna, just to add on to it quickly, some universities also have a section for a diversity essay in their applications.
Yes,
so
they do.
Some students do tend to skip on that, but if you have a lot of extracurricular activities, use that section to like completely highlight everything that you've done. So that's something which is useful.
Donna, I'll just speak. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Well, Chirag and Abhishek, we can still continue the discussion. So earlier in this discussion, it was all about profile and how to overcome certain aspects of the profile. For example, low GPA, backlogs, gap year, all of those things we've addressed earlier. Now, how do we, what are some of your tips when it comes to writing a statement of purpose? Because these are clearly touchy topics. How should you go about them? Is it like walking on thin eggshells, or what is the way to go about it?
I would say don't just start writing and then be like, okay, I'm going to get ideas as I write and I'm just going to put them down. But instead, take some time, think, jot down the points that you'd like to include in your SOP. By points, I mean things that you think are relevant, things that you think will boost your chances of getting in, things that will show people what kind of a person you are with respect to what you're applying to. And once you've spent enough time making all of that, then start writing. Have a flow to your SOP. Don't just have different points all over the place. Like if you're talking about your work, make sure it's in a specific place and that it's not, you say something about your work and then, you say a bunch of other stuff and then you're again talking about your work. Like make sure it has a very cohesive feel to it. And a very good recommendation is every time, once you're done writing your SOP, at least the first revision of it, make sure to show it to other people. Because a lot of the times you don't notice things in your SOP since you've been so invested in it. And other people might be like, okay, I don't see the, why do you have this paragraph here? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then when you read it again, you'll be like, oh, okay. But at the same time, on the flip side, don't show it to too many people because too many cooks can spoil the broth. So show it to a few people, like people you think either know you very well or have mentored you or have something of value to add to you. Show it to them, get their opinions, and then keep revising it. The first 3 revisions of your SOP probably won't be it. So yeah, it takes time, but it's always best to start early because you need a really good SOP. That is extremely important. So take your time, gather your thoughts, put them in a cohesive manner in a way that you would like to read. Like if someone were to show you something, how would you like it to be? Like the way it should be so that you don't get bored halfway through. Like someone has to be able to make it till the end without saying, without being forced to. Like they shouldn't even realize that they've read the whole thing until they reach the end. So there is no big secret to it. Most of it is just multiple revisions and then redoing it again and again and again until you feel like you've found your voice on your SOP.
Yep.
Okay.
So So yeah, so everything Abhishek said, totally agree to it. And think about your SOP. Uh, think about your SOP this way. Like it's a story. You would want to go about it, like you said. You need to have a flow. I forgot the point I was about to say. But yeah, think about it this way. So consider your SOP is kind of like your interview that you're not going to be able to give in person, but you have this one page to tell who you are, why you need to get into this program, and what you have to offer to the university. Because it's a give and take for the university. They're offering you the course. What can you give back to the university? So they need to know that from you. So once you write your SOP, always read it out to yourself and think about it from the other side from the professor's perspective. Would you be able to sit in one sitting and read through it without losing interest? Like if you're hearing someone talk your SOP out loud, would you lose interest midway? If so, why would you lose interest? Work on those points, make it more interesting. So like Abhishek said, always have other people go through your SOP, proofread it. I would say have one person who's knowledgeable with your course, knowledgeable with the other certifications and coursework required for this course, proofread your SOP so that they can attest to you having included relevant information regarding the coursework in it. And I'd also say have someone who has a good hold over the English language. It could be someone who writes columns, someone who writes blogs for a living, someone who does writing for a living and who are really good at that. And I'm sure either you have friends of friends who do that. So find that person, convince them to take an hour out of their day and like read your SOP and like give you their comments. It really helps. It makes a huge difference because they always tend to see things that you never did. Even if you went through it 10 times, you'd never see those points that they mentioned. So make sure you do that. And if you can, always get someone who's in a graduate program to read your SOP. They can give you a good take on it. So other than that, that's everything Abhishek covered pretty much sums it up.
And like Chirag said, if it's someone who's in your field, like an already existing graduate student, they have a better idea of what is and isn't relevant. Like there might be a lot of points you think are relevant, but might not necessarily be. So as someone who's already in the field, they would have a better feel for it than you do. What I actually did is I had a friend of mine who has a good command over the language. So we set up a call and we opened my SOP on a Google Docs sheet, and we were simultaneously editing it to, see how it's going to be. So, 2 pairs of eyes was really helpful on that. And yeah, the rest of it is exactly like Chirag said.
Always have somebody to proofread it and give you a person opinion on it. Absolutely, that definitely makes sense because the professor who's going to read your SOP is a total stranger to you. And if you're not able to interest somebody else who knows you well, then how can you possibly convince the admissions committee, right? So that absolutely makes sense. And those were really comprehensive tips that definitely would help aspirants at this point of time, especially when they're about to write their statement of purpose. Now, speaking of statement of purpose, I just want to ask the audience one simple question. How many of you guys at this point of time are wondering how to go about your statement of purpose, or just how to put yourself onto paper in such a way that you're able to express that you're much beyond those numbers that define you, like your GRE score, your GPA, your backlogs, etc. How many of you guys feel that way? Shreyan, Harshita, Abhinash, Sayada, Anusha, Rajashekar, wow, Daivat, Abhishek, Bharat, Aman, Kaushik. Seems like a lot of people at this point of time feel that way. Debajit, Jay Shah, Aman Kumar. All right. So at this point of time, we'd love to be of any kind of help in this journey, even if it means getting you on track, understanding what is it that your profile, what is it that your profile has that can be highlighted in such a way that your dream university is still not out of sight. So in that case, if you're looking for any kind of assistance, be it in your SOP editing or finding out the best universities for your profile or just getting a mentor to guide you through your applications process, then we'd love to be of assistance. Just let us know in what way GRE Edge can be of assistance. Here, I'm about to launch a poll. You can let us know by quickly taking a second to answer this poll. After which we'll also move on to our pop quiz that I had talked about earlier. Hello. Are you guys able to see the poll, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Let us know in what way we can be of any kind of assistance, be it your GRE preparation, admissions counseling. Even if you'd like to talk to a student counselor, we'd love to give you an opportunity to do that as well. Meanwhile, Chirag and Abhishek, can you tell us how was your overall experience with GRE Edge?
It was good. I mean, it helped a lot having someone evaluate universities, and it kind of helped to know in what way I was lacking in certain universities so that I could try to build up on that, because there were some universities that were like categorized as out of my range just because my GRE score was a little lower or my GPA was bad. But I was pretty confident that my SOP and LOR could make up for that. So I still did apply. And I mean, that's how I ended up at UMD. But yeah, so it actually helped a lot. Like, you know, having someone to talk you through the process, someone who's done that for countless students, it really helps, like someone who's experienced. So I mean, it was great for me.
Wonderful. What about you, Chirag?
I'd like to say the same. It was a positive experience from my side. It did help me get like another perspective on what I can change, how I could better my profile, because at that point of time, other than bettering my SOP, there wasn't really anything else that I could change in my profile. I couldn't change my GRE score or things on my resume. So it was a really good thing to get that different perspective on how you could make do best with what resources that you have. So for students who are in that position, that's something I'd say it really helps going ahead for them.
Wonderful. All right, we're really excited and we're really happy to have you guys back here in the hot seat once again. I mean, we've always had guest seminars. We've been doing that for a very long time, but this is probably the first time we've had three of you all together in one panel talking about some of the most important aspects of applying to universities, especially when you're targeting top admits. So this has indeed been a wonderful session so far, but it's not time for us to close yet. But I just have a couple of things before we wind up, and that is, I'd like to ask you one question based on our discussion so far, and the first correct answer that I get gets a chance to win a Zomato Gold subscription for 1 full year. Okay, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for the challenge? Yes, says Ankita, Surabhi, Saurav, Jay, Shaktivel, Abhinash, Vamsi, Anusha. All right, so it's time for us to see who amongst you guys have the best memory and also the best typing speed, right? So let's find out. So somewhere along in our discussion, Abhishek mentioned that something would be the best friend in terms of applications process. What exactly did he mention as the best friend? Okay, I guess we have found the first correct answer here, and that is by Anusha. Yes, congratulations, Anusha. Anusha says Excel sheets. Yes, of course. At the time of applications process, Excel sheet does come in handy, and it is definitely an applicant's best friend. So congratulations, Anusha. Next up, before we close the pop quiz, I said there's one more chance. for you to win Zomato Gold subscription. So let's find out the next question. So while discussing low GPA and low backlogs, we asked if it was a good idea to mention that in the SOP. And everybody said one answer. What is that answer? And I don't want just a yes or no, guys. I want it along with the reason. Okay, there was a response with a condition. What was that condition? Okay, a lot of responses coming in, but I'm not really seeing anything really close. Okay. Okay, very, very close responses. All right, I guess I have to give that to Mayank Tiwari. Oh my God, I guess I got a lot of responses that my chat box kind of got stuck. So, all right, so Mayank said, no, unless you can work that out in your favor. So I guess that's pretty much the closest answer. A lot of you guys said health issues, and a lot of you guys were too specific, but actually on a broader sense, it meant it has to work out in your favor. If you have a reason to really mention that in the SOP, if it's really bothering you that it was really not your fault and you want to bring that out and clear the air, so in such a manner that it brings you out in positive light, then please feel free to do that. Unless, of course, it doesn't do it, then don't mention it in your SOP. So in that sense, we have two winners in today's in this event's pop quiz. That was Anusha and Mayank Tiwari. Congratulations, guys! You guys win a year-long Zomato Gold subscription. Before we close today's session, I'd like to take up a couple of more questions before we wind up, because I'd hate to see a lot of questions go unanswered. In fact, I can see there has been a lot of questions here that I haven't been able to take up. If you guys would like to still have your questions answered despite not having taken them up during this session, I can probably share a link with you where you can post your questions there, and maybe within the next 2 working days, we could put in, we can gather in our experts here, our in-house experts, maybe take some help from our seniors here at GRE Ed and get you answers to your questions. If that works, let me know. I can share a Q&A link with you all so that you can still post your questions there and get answers. All right, great. So I'm just going to share the Q&A link with all of you. Just give me a second. Okay, so that way you still have a lot of questions coming in that we can address using, with the help of some of our experts here at GRE Ed. So let's take up a couple of questions before we close today's seminar. Okay, so here's a question from Debajit Chatterjee. If a certain university in India has a different grading system, then how does the American university system compensate for that?
So I'd like to say that each and every graduate admissions, they have their own conversion system that they apply to any university scales that they get the transcripts from. So I'd say that he doesn't have to worry about how they would translate that into their scores. Each university has their own different formulas for it. And if some university doesn't, they, I think, either ask you to submit a WS evaluation of your score. So that's something you don't have to worry about. Just make sure you're getting you're getting as much scores as you can for your university, because they do know that in some universities, it's very difficult to get like full marks. So it's okay if you get lesser, but if the overall percentile is the same as yours, then that's how they convert it into their scores and get their GPA out of it.
Okay, so you're saying that they do have a separate way of assessing students from different grading systems, is it?
Yep. So each and every graduate admissions, they have their own separate formulas with which they evaluate the university scores to convert into GPA for themselves.
Yeah, a normalized score so that they can. Okay, perfect. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. So Yawar Ali Khan asks, what is the minimum GPA required to get into a good college?
6.
6.
Generally, it's 6. Yeah, because any lesser than that, it doesn't really look that nice. But anything 6 and above, you can like make up for it with your profile. But less than that is pretty dangerous to play around. I mean, maybe there are people who've gotten in with like a 5.5 or something, but I would say it's extremely dangerous to play around with it. 6 would be a safe metric.
All right. So here I have a question from Saida Mariam. She asks, she's in fact asking, since we haven't touched upon recommenders, she wants to have, get an understanding or some tips on how to go about letters of recommendation.
What I did at least was I had 3 letters of recommendations, 4 actually. 2 of them I decided to get from professors in my college, and the ones I picked were the first one was my mentor, the one who I spoke to if I had any questions or who made sure my grades were okay and all of that. And the other one was the professor who overlooked my project, my final year project. So that way, getting letters of recommendation from these 2, I could, have the letter be written in such a way because they've had a deeper understanding of me than other professors have in my university. So when they're recommending me, it's because they actually know me. Like they've worked with me closely. So it would make a lot more sense for them to be recommending me than random people. And the other 2 letters I got were, one was from my direct superior at the place I interned. After I graduated, I interned for a period of about 10 to 11 months. And I got a letter from my direct supervisor because he works closely with me. He assigns my duties and he knows what I do. And the final person I got the final and most important person for me at least, was the director of the same company, because it was a small startup and there was like barely 15 to 20 people working there. So I could explain about how he knew me, and he had an extensive background in the same thing that I was applying to. And he opened like a couple of companies in the US and then sold them here. And then he moved back to India and started another company. So him having such a rich background with like a wealth of experience in his belt, being recommended by him was like the absolute best. I mean, that was the best recommendation letter I had.
Wonderful. Any points to add to that, Chirag?
I agree with what Abhishek said. So always get it from, if you're getting it from professors, get it from professors who can write something that they've personally worked along with you with. It might be a project that they worked with, or it might be a class that you took up with them in which you are involved in seminars or presentations, and where they've seen you either lead a team. Welcome back, Arushi.
Just in time, Arushi.
Can you? Okay. In my defense, my laptop is old and worn out. So, guys, when you're in America, look out for Thanksgiving sales.
Yep.
Black Friday is coming up.
Black Friday.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Anyway, you were saying, Chirag, about recommenders.
So yeah, in your letter of recommendation, always try to get your professors to write something personal about you, where they work with you and they actually like some quality about you. So that always adds an impact to it. And obviously, like Abhishek said, if you can get from someone who has a rich background in the specialization that you're applying for, or is very well known in the research field, who has published a lot of papers, and someone that has been out there in the field, that is something which is very, very valuable to get a letter of recommendation from. But then again, I would say if you have not worked with them personally and you do not know them well, it is not going to add value. If they just straight up list out qualities about you, then that's not going to help. That's not how a letter of recommendation should look like.
Right. Anyway, Arushi, since you missed out on that part of the discussion, what would you like to advise students on going about their letters of recommendation?
Oh, okay, cool. Regarding the letters of recommendation, I would definitely suggest that you first have an interaction with the person from whom you want to take the LOR, so that so that both of you are on the same page. And then when you are getting the letter from the LOR, as whatever I've heard from Chirag and what Chirag said, you need to make sure that that the person that is giving the LOR is somebody who is very well experienced in the area, in the specialization that you want to go to. And so, yeah, for example, when I was initially applying, I was applying in electromagnetics. So the person from whom I had taken the LORs was the head of the department for electrical engineering, and he was specializing in radar engineering and antenna design. So his recommendation really helped. So you need to, briefly describing the qualities, as you said, won't help. Also, you need to also have a good cordial relationship, working relationship with them, so that it's like they know about your life, and so that way when they are presenting, it should also be like they actually know what is happening, so that they seem their comments seem more viable, more valid, and that the admission committee can accept it. Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, those were some fabulous points of discussion, guys. I think we've covered a lot of things that we could possibly cover in about 1.5 hours. We have spoken about profile building. We spoke about how to overcome admissions hurdles that you may come across, and we also talked about SOP and LORs, and addressed a lot of questions on backlogs and low CGPA, and how to kind of overcome all of those hurdles despite having a dream to go to a top university. What can you do? So anyway, that was some amazing tips that you had to share, and I'm sure our students would have loved everything that all the valuable information that you had to share. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to call it a day, since we've been running an all-day marathon, and it's about time for us. So it's been wonderful. And what are some of your last tips that you'd like to share with Fall 19 aspirants? We'll start with you, Abhishek.
I would say just pick up as many certifications as you can, because that helps a lot. Pick up other skills like coding languages or whatever is relevant to your field. And just be prepared for it to be hectic and kind of free at the same time. Like, it's kind of difficult to explain. Like, you have a lot of free time, but at the same time you don't. So yeah, just be prepared for time management, because that helps.
Right. What about you, Chirag?
I would like to say, plan everything out, have an idea of all the things that you need to get done, or that will be coming up in the future that you will have to get done, and be ready to tackle all of them. But at the same time, like Abhishek said, you will have some free time. So make sure to take some time out and have fun doing the process. It's at the end of the day, when you finish everything and you look back at it, it's actually, you feel happy about all the things that you went through. When you get the admit, it's a nice sense of achievement that you feel. So it's, in the end, it's all worth it. So make sure you put in that time and effort to give your best shot at it.
Wonderful. What about you, Ashi?
First of all, congratulations that you've made it this far and that you're going to be applying for fall 19. It's definitely, as Chirag said, this is just a phase so where you like months down the line you'll be looking back at it and you'll be like, oh, I've overcome this. I've overcome this kind of a situation. So when you are looking at your profile, you may have had a low GRE score or a low GPA, or you've had a backlog. Definitely do not let that deter you from applying. All of us, all the three of us have had many issues, but that didn't deter us from applying. So make sure that you have everything in order, your resume, your SOP, your LORs. Let them be concise and to the point. Even if there is one place where you've gone low, you can make up anywhere else. And definitely be very expressive in what, like, with specialization you want to go to. And don't forget to keep augmenting your profile. Learning is a never-ending process. So certification courses, internships, WorkX, if you ever get a chance to, paper publications, they all always help. So don't forget to keep adding on to your profile, even if you've like applied to some universities already, because who knows, some universities will get a better profile of you, and then they'll know that you are a learner and that you would like to keep learning every day. So never give up.
And keep your Excel sheets updated.
Yes. Excel spreadsheets when you're applying and after you receive the admits.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow, this has indeed been a great session, guys. In fact, I'd like to ask the audience, please share your feedback on how you found today's online seminar. I mean, it's the first time we've ever done something like this. And if you'd like to see more of such seminars where you can ask your questions to different kinds of students who've made it big in their admissions journey, then do let us know. I know some questions did go unanswered, and I think it's because of the sheer volume of questions that we got and the time constraint. I've shared the link to the Q&A forum where we're collecting all of the questions that we haven't been able to answer during the event. And we'll try to collect responses to those questions within 2 working days and get back to you with answers to your questions, right? So with that, we're going to end this 13-hour admissions marathon, Masters Connect for Fall 2019. And we really wish you guys all the very best in your journey to your dream admit. And hope you guys and stay in touch. We have webinars running for you every day from Monday to Saturday. So do keep joining and get all the kinds of information that you need to complete your MS journey. Right, so on that note, this is Donna David signing off. A very good evening. Thank you so much, Abhishek, Chirag, and Rishi. It was an honor and pleasure to have you all on board once again. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good luck. Good luck to everyone.
Good luck.
Good luck to every one of you.